I now want to introduce Doug Hamburger, whose son Patrick sadly died in that crash, also needlessly.
Good morning. I'd like to express my appreciation for you folks being here today, also in support of the many families who lost their sons on August 6th of 2011. My name is Doug Hamburger, and this is my wife, Shawn, and we're accompanied by our son, Jeremy, here to speak to you today. My son, Staff Sergeant Patrick Douglas Hamburger, was full-time National Guard Army Aviation stationed out of Grand Island, Nebraska. And he was the flight engineer and the gunner on the CH-47 that was shot down in what many of us feel could have been an ambush on August 6th, where 30 great Americans lost their lives. You know, we're very concerned that the administration had disclosed that the Navy SEALs had carried out a successful attack on Bin Laden's compound, resulting in his death. And you know, never before in the history of our country was a sitting president release that type of information to the public, especially when we was talking about special forces. Their names and their missions had never been revealed before, and we really feel that this put our guys at an unnecessary risk. Even though CBS had released that it was SEAL Team 6 earlier, when the administration acknowledged it, they were wrong. They should have just stayed on the original idea that this was special forces, and they should have never identified any other group as being responsible for that attack on Bin Laden. Really, releasing their identity, it put a target on their backs, along with any of the support troops that went into battle with them. That included the Army, that included the Air Force Special Operations as well. Defense Secretary Robert Gates, as you had seen earlier on our video, he admitted that the SEAL team that carried out the raid on Bin Laden now feared for their safety. In fact, in a meeting with a group of Marines at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, he said, "We're very, very concerned about the security of our families, of your families, and our troops, and also these elite units that are engaged in things like that." Without getting into details, I would like to tell you that when I met with the team last Thursday, and this is what Gates had said, he said they expressed to me that they're particularly worried with respect to their families. He then stated, frankly, a week ago Sunday, in the Situation Room, we all agreed that we would not release any operational details from the effort to take out Bin Laden. That all fell apart the next day on Monday morning. So Gates said that the Department of Defense was looking into ways to pump up the security to take care of the elite. Didn't look like that happened very well, because 93 days later is when our sons were shot down. With bounties on their heads and targets on their backs, we had 22 Navy, 5 Army Aviation, and 3 Air Force Special Ops. They were shot down by the Taliban, who were positioned in a tower of a building in the perfect place at the exact time to launch an attack on a CH-47 when it was most vulnerable. That's when it was landing. How can anybody justify putting our troops in that type of danger? I do have another question that I'd like to have answered as well. It had to do with the official investigation into the shooting down of Extortion 17. It was done by General Colt and his team and was presented to our families in Little Creek, which is the home of the Navy SEALs. Nowhere in the investigation was there any mention of the Afghan military being questioned or asking them to help with the investigation in any way. Got to repeat that. 1,250 pages of this investigation. No one from the Afghan command or the Afghan military had any input into this investigation, which tells me that this was wrong. It was not a thorough investigation. So, you know, why was that? Why was that allowed to happen? You know, as Karen had mentioned earlier, command was involved in every single mission that is carried out by Special Forces. Why were they not involved in the investigation? If they were part of that investigation, we may have found out about those 7 Afghans that were switched just before that flight was to take off. We may have found out that the 7 names on the manifest were not the same 7 people that were on that helicopter with our sons. So it's a shame that we as parents have to ask for a congressional investigation to find out answers to what us and the Vaughns and the Stranges and the other parents have been asking, but we certainly feel like we have that need, and we really appreciate you folks being here today to help support that. We're pleading with the American people to put the pressure on your congressmen and senators to make sure that that investigation does get started up and we do get some answers as to what was going on. Not so much that we can do anything for our families or our boys, but we want to make sure that our military is taken care of in the future. We're very proud of our military. We've got some great ties with many, many great families of the military that has reached out to us and that have shared our pain. And we want to make sure that their sons and daughters are protected and allowed to fight to the top of their abilities. Quite frankly, with our rules of engagement that we have right now, our military is not allowed to do that. We have got the finest fighting military of anybody in the world. And when our hands are tied back because of rules of engagement or any other type of thing that our government happens to be chasing at this point, we're wrong. Many times deadly, deadly wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug and Sean. Well said.